There is no doubt about it, Arsenal are one of the best teams from corners and set pieces the world has ever seen. Now in this video we're going to analyse exactly how their corners have changed from last season and why this is completely sustainable and teams will struggle to defend them for the future. So let's get into it. Now as an Arsenal fan, I take a lot of pride on the fact that we are very good at corners. Now a lot of people are obviously going to come out and say corners FC and we only score from corners, which is definitely not the case, because statistically in the over 100 goals we have scored in 2024, only around 25% of them are actually from corners, which is a lot given the fact that we've scored a lot more than the teams around us in that metric, but it should be praised nonetheless. Now I've done videos on Arsenal's corners before, most predominantly in around February time where we were really good at them as well, but Arsenal have changed a little bit about what they do. Not completely, I still think the same principles are there, but against Man United it was a different way Arsenal fans to score from corners without of course Gabriel being in there. Now that is a good thing to say. Gabriel is the main person Arsenal always try to look for from the corners. He has scored the most goals out of any defender in Europe from headers in the last couple of years and is well above anyone in the Premier League. And even this season we have seen the great aspect of Gabriel. He is so good at being so dominant in the air, but it's not just that makes it so good, it's his movement nonetheless. Now first and foremost we've seen corners which he has taken a lot where he is on the edge of the box. This is where they usually have a player commit to him and he can even go left or right to get in behind or to the front post. Now what Arsenal do to actually block this is put everyone at the back post usually, sometimes you do see them all at the front post as well, and then just as it's being kicked they all run in. Now in a sense everyone running in is actually to create a distraction. People are there to block goalkeepers and block some of the midfielders and defenders moving in order to give Gabriel a clear space in behind or in front of them where he can score the header. Now because of this movement at the last minute, any team Arsenal play can't really commit to a man-to-man press. They need to have their big defenders in that main area to defend the box. So you usually see a mix of a zonal slash man marking perspective like we did against United. They have two people that we call the main blockers, this being Manuel Ugarte and Mason Mount, trying to block William Saliba and Havertz, the two tallest people in there for Arsenal. This allows 4 players to actually be the zonal markers in the 6-yard box and 2 to be front post to try and track the runners and where they move to make sure they don't get in the head of any of the players zonally marking. Now in this metric, Jurrien Timber actually takes up that perspective that Gabriel does, running past Malacia into the back post, but he is actually the dummy in this situation, which we have seen Arsenal do a lot more. This allows Partey to be front post and be free as they are not really following him, and the zonal markers get pushed out of position by all the Arsenal players coming in so late. So the same principles are there, but they don't just do this. Arsenal also like to play different systems around this, and even though you're going to have one player usually at the edge of the box or inside it making that run, Arsenal don't always do this. Against West Ham they identified this, where West Ham actually had 2 players also marking that sort of box like United as a sort of counter to try and get 2 players on a player running in. This means Gabriel just joins the back of the queue in this aspect, and what he does is he actually disguises his run the whole time behind Calafiori. Now Calafiori is getting marked by another player and Antonio can't get around Calafiori and the marking player to get to Gabriel. Gabriel goes inside first and goes outside and creates that little bit of space. And because it is so congested in there, most of the West Ham players or players against Arsenal don't know where to go. They're walking into each other, they're blocking each other because of all the consistent movement, and Arsenal know exactly where each other are going to be. That gives them a free header. And there's no doubt about it, Gabriel is obviously the main man for it. He's the guy they always find, so teams have a good aspect of trying to mark him more than anyone. Now against United, yet again, this did change a lot because he didn't play, but Arsenal was still very effective. Like I said, when Timber actually was the aspect of Gabriel in the first corner, when Arsenal had another one, he actually changed to that other Gabriel role, being at the back post and disguising his run past players. This allowed him to get a little bit of acceleration to get to that front post, and yet again, Timber isn't the tallest, but he's got an incredible jump, probably one of the best in the team, and it actually makes sense why he would be the person in there, because you can still have Saliba and Havertz block for him like they did for Gabriel. Now one of the main things that this does as well is just create so much congestion in there that the goalkeeper can't move. In all the games that Arsenal scored corners in recently, it's quite clear that the keeper can't come off his line because he will be given up a big chance. There is so many players in there and there's so many of his own players are in there right in front of the goalkeeper, where if he moves out or doesn't come and collect the ball, it's going to be a bad situation. This kind of forces the goalkeeper to stay on his line, and I know some people have complained about whether goalkeepers should move a bit more, and maybe if you're a goalkeeper that controls the box a bit like Raya does, it might be a bit easier, but these keepers do not want to take this risk against Arsenal. And the fear that Arsenal creates sometimes is enough for them to score. the first goal against Man United is a great example of this. Arsenal's blocking in this instance wasn't the best. Now, Fernandes and Højlund actually get a free and get away, but they both overcommit to that front post, allowing a gap where Timber slots in and can head the ball in from close range. Realistically, obviously the ball is brilliant here, but you don't want it going over two heads to go to Timber. That's not really part of the plan. It should be us getting the first contact. And when Arsenal scored this goal, it was from the front post. And there was another moment just a few minutes later where they had the same chance, and this time Xerxes jumps too far forward. Martinelli blocks Fernandes, and in the end Xerxes almost puts it into his own net with them having someone at the back post to head away. But Arsenal are so versatile in their movements, and they know what each other are going to do. With all these front post crosses, Manchester United started to have a much more deeper block and just create a wall in sense to see where the ball is going. This is when Marino came on late and he would make crashing runs from deep, which is a player that Man United never picked up in any of their chances. And in situations like this where Man United is zonally marking that front post, Arsenal just kick it over the top of all of them. They barely move a lot of their players from that back post run, and it just completely catches Man United off guard. They have barely any players to cover for the Arsenal players in there, and Partey heads it across easily, which hits Saliba and goes in. And it's that fear created from all them front post crosses that have created this. And that is backed up by the stats about how even it is. If you look at the left side and the right side of Arsenal's crossing statistics, it is pretty even, especially on that right side with Saka in consistent ways. But most of the time you see it is about that middle aspect of the game, and they're mostly in swingers. And that is the thing. We can go on about corners and blocking and all this dark art stuff and all of this stuff that should be defended in the box, but ultimately it all just starts from the corners. Arsenal don't overcomplicate their corners. They are just really tall in the air and have the most incredible delivery every single time, which just makes it so easy for us to get in the right positions. And Saka and Rice have got consistent amount of assists now from these set pieces where they are so good at putting so much whip on them, but they're also very fast, which makes them so hard to defend. And that is basically where everything comes from in a great way. And while Arsenal are amazing at corners, that United game was really something special that should be admired. Arsenal had not scored a corner goal without Gabriel being in the team since 2020, so he is clearly that big guy that we all look for every time. But now that you're getting other people coming to the team like Timber with his jumping ability, and even people like Partey and Saliba getting in the right positions in the box, it is going to create great things and they're going to score as well. And that's basically my main issue I have with the Arsenal criticism of this, because we are not just scoring corners by lofting the box randomly in there and people heading it in because they're tall. It is coming from technical ability, genius from our players that take them. If everyone could do that, then they would do it as well, but they just cannot provide that consistent amount of quality. And there's obviously a lot of credit. I think Gabriel's movement in the box specifically is incredible, how he moves in and out and how he sidesteps players so easily, but does get helped by a lot of his other players just stopping the involvement and the movements of people trying to tackle him. Overall, I think Arsenal should be so proud of the corner tactics that they provide every single week. And the most important thing in football is just finding any way to win or having something else in your arsenal to be even better. Pardon that with the fact that Arsenal scores so many goals without corners, they score so much and create so much, does make them an elite team. And when they're not up to their best on the ball like against United, being able to rely on these corner goals is exactly what will make them an elite team. Jover, who deserves a lot of credit, obviously being the man behind it all. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.